Do you want to work on a art journal? How about doing it this way? I took an old book and made it into an art journal. Here's some of the pages I've done. So this is an old watercolor book, how to paint with watercolors, and I just painted over each page or pasted paper into it. I even keep little things in it that maybe are scrapbooky items, but either way, this is a fun way to do an art journal. You'll see some of the pages I've painted right on, and other times I've added paper to it. Sometimes I've done collage style where I've added paper underneath and worked on top. I've worked with mixed media, acrylic, watercolor, ink, pens, markers, a little bit of everything in this book. Would you like to learn how to do this? It's a fun way to alter a book, make it into something of your own. Let me show you how to get started. I usually will take a page and just start by adding some acrylic paint. Just enough to cover anything that I don't want exposed in the picture. So let's cover these birds. I'm using white acrylic paint, nothing fancy, just the cheap stuff from Michaels. I'm using my fingers just because I want to. And there you have a lightly covered page. This is the acrylic paint I used. Then I add some Hansa yellow light with my fingers once again and smudge it around into the paint. The white is already dry, so I'm just smudging yellow on. I then take some red, which is also made by Golden, and this is red medium, and I rub it into parts of the yellow and other places where it's white. Then I grab a little titanium white and rub that in as well to make some pink areas. I'm smudging all over the page, doing some tapping. And I don't like that I don't have much orange, so I grab my Pyrrole orange. Golden fluid acrylics smear around easily because they're very watery consistency, but they have a high volume of color. I use a little water in some places, and then it's important to dry. When my pages dry, my fingers sometimes are yucky, so I clean them off with a baby wipe. Then I grab some watercolor, and I just fix the places on my page where I can still see paper that hasn't been coated by paint. This is my watercolor palette, and I'm using orange just to get the edges. I also place a piece of paper or a magazine in between the pages so that I don't run off onto other pages. I'm now drying the piece once again, and it is now touch dry. Now I can begin doodling. I use microns to doodle on my pages. Microns are wonderful. They are, I use the black, and they are archival, which means that they don't smear with water. I now add some acrylic paint to a paper plate palette and begin to paint on my images that I put down on micron pen. I am now putting them in with paint. Now they are going to really stick out. And this way, if anything that I didn't like, I can just cover it in paint. Now I don't want to cover all my paint, but we'll get to that. So for now, I'm just drawing in my shapes, doing a little shading, adding in some little details. I do want places where my color that I put down in the background shows through, but I'm going to want places where it doesn't. So I continue to block in images such as the leaves and the other flowers, and then I begin to apply some dark black paint with a baby wipe. And what I do is I smudge it around to add some areas of shading and interest to the flower, also to parts of the background, so that the background kind of fades actually into the background and the bright color of the flower begins to pop more against the background being more muted. I'm going to do more of this. So now I begin looking over my composition and adding some more black background, smudging it in with the baby wipe. I then decide it needs a little extra color, so I put blue in my flower and I highlight with white. Adding white highlights here and there really seems to make it pop. More white and blue on the flower. A few more highlights. As the paint goes on, it really begins to take shape, adding some depth to the flowers, even though it's not precise. I have a shaky hand, but things like this, it's okay to have a shaky hand. They're botanical, they're natural, there's no real straight lines in nature. A few more highlights here and there. I did smudge a little bit around again with a baby wipe. Then I decide that the leaves need a little green, so I mixed up some real vibrant green on my palette, smudged it on with a baby wipe, so that it would be there but not real blunt, like as in putting it on with a brush. Now I feel like it has good color, and I feel like it's for the most part finished. Here I am with the finished product.